तुषार भाई आओ छो ने કે પહેલાથી ભાગી ગયા? અચ્છા, મને તો પહેલેથી ભાગી ગયા કે. I know you need a big drink. Good evening, everybody. Let me start off with thanking Mr. Suresh for coming up with this idea. When he called me up, I was a little surprised in this August club to be the opening batsman to play this match. I thought there were many more deserving, but I think he clarified during his talk why he selected healthcare because of going through a health issue during those times. So before I start my journey of Criticare, I'll first take you to Namjoshi ki Duniya, because that Namjoshi ki Duniya would tell you Aaj ke Namjoshi ki Duniya. Okay. And then the story will become relevant. So, born to a middle-class Maharashtrian family, both parents working. We were not poor, we were well-to-do as per the times. Both parents earning, so father in a bank job as a stenographer, mother working as a senior clerk in rationing office. Dad used to get an income of 10,000 rupees and mom used to get an income of 4,500 rupees. That's when they retired. Earlier was lesser. We always used to wonder, both do almost similar kind of work, but just working in a bank fetches you double the money. Okay. And in the story, the other important character of life was my grandfather, who was a strict control guy who wanted to guide his family through difficult situations and see to it that we were a well-organized family as per those times. And the fifth character was my sister, 2 years elder to me. So this is how life started in a one-bedroom hall kitchen. Father used to work initially for Reserve Bank and then went over to IDBI. Now, one of the greatest skills which was always discussed in a house by virtue of my father being a stenographer was the typing speed and shorthand. Okay, so one of the biggest indicators of talent for my father was if I could pick up shorthand quickly. So at the speed at which you could speak, if you could write it, okay, there's nothing better to achieve. And if your typing speed was good, then I think you have achieved everything. You become whatever, doctor, engineer. There were only two choices at that time, doctor, engineer. So whatever you become, but if you knew shorthand and typist, I think you are set in life. So we started off with that concept. That was the ambition to have a good typing speed and to have a good shorthand speed. Now, going through this middle class is a journey, different journey by itself. With limited resources and a grandfather who felt that financial security is one of the most important things in life, and he's striving endlessly to achieve that. He achieved that via cutting down majority of our needs to bare minimums. So he thought that that's the best way. You don't spend on paraphernalia, so family will be more secure. So I remember as a child when the electricity charges went up a little higher and electricity bills started climbing up, my grandfather compared the electricity charges versus the gas charges. And he concluded using cooking gas was cheaper than using electricity. So cut to our morning baths. From an electric geyser, we started heating a big vessel of water, make it boiling hot, then put it in the bucket, add cold water to it, and we saved money. Okay. So I remember when I was in 5th grade, my grandfather expected us to have all the intelligence and independence of an adult. So 5th grade, I was sent to the bank, and we had fixed deposits at that time when TDS was not deducted. So fixed deposits were divided into 10,000 rupees, 15,000 rupees, because if you exceeded that, then TDS was deducted, and which somehow my grandfather was not very happy with. So we kept those deposits in 10,000, 15,000 rupees, and the interest used to be 182 rupees 25 paise. Now, invariably, the bank used to credit 182 rupees, and after 4 months, 183 rupees. So now my grandfather was upset with this. So I was sent to the bank. I barely came up above the counter of the bank, and I would ask them, "Okay, where's that 25 paise?" So they would give me some explanation which I would partially understand. Go back. Grandfather was not satisfied. How can you be such an idiot? They'll tell you anything. It's our hard-earned money. It's not a question of 25 paise. It's a question of this is something which they promised. Go back. So back to the bank. Okay. Again, I would go and argue with them 25 paise. They would say, no, it will be adjusted. Ultimately, you will get the same amount of money, but instead of 25 paise, we are rounding it off. Go back to grandfather, again unhappy. Go and meet the manager. So imagine a 10-year-old going to the bank manager and arguing with him about 25 paise. But that showed me the importance of finances from that early age. These were a few anecdotal evidences which perhaps helped me to shape up what eventually I had to become. So most of the housework was to be done by children in terms of if the tap was leaking, my grandfather expected me to open the tap, put the new visor inside, and see to it that it doesn't leak. And we had a toolbox. We had 3 types of hammer, the lighter one, the medium size one, and the heavy one. So he would tell to get a hammer and pick up a hammer. Do you know what job we are doing? This is not the hammer for this job. Like, don't work like in Marathi I would tell you like a sangkamya. Okay, so somebody who just takes instructions and follows instructions. So he expected me to be, this is before 10 years old also. Okay, so he expected me to change the flush tanks, the water ball cock mechanism, okay, before I was 10. He had a neurological problem. I'm coming to all that, why I was being pushed into everything. Dad working, grandfather had a neurological problem by which he used to tremble while walking and all. So it was not very easy for him to go down and go to the banks and do all the job of changing the visors. And also I was his assistant doing all the jobs. Dad was busy in office. So all this was learned, okay, you can't be a sangkamya and you have to be a thinker and you have to look around everywhere. After both of us came from school, both me and my sister were expected to have our lunch on our own and then clean up everything. So clean up everything, we cleaned the dining table. He would expect the kitchen platform, the vessels, everything to be cleaned out. Okay, we had one servant visiting for a little while. So rest of the work had to be you. And had to be you means you were not given any kind of concessions because of your age. Okay, but that went a long way towards shaping us. Now, as far as business is concerned, Namjoshis were a very business-like family. So every time my father and grandfather would meet some friend who would give them an inspiration about doing a business, they would be quite inspired. So one of the incidents which I remember very well was a police officer staying close to us who had bought a few rickshaws and given them out to drivers to drive. And they were making some, at that time, $100 per day or $150 per day, 3-4 rickshaws. So at that time when they were earning 3,000-4,000 rupees, getting income of 3,000 rupees per rickshaw was quite something good. And my father worked in a bank, so he would get the rickshaw loan at a very reasonable price at that time at 2%, 3%. So we thought very viable proposition. So we had a deep discussion. The good part of our family was we were always treated like adults. So we were involved in everything. There was no secrecy. There was no worry about children getting spoiled by they knowing too much. We didn't have too much. So whatever we had, there was no problem in the entire family knowing what we had. So the entire discussion of the house was there about buying a rickshaw, and we were all gung-ho. We started calculating our profits, what we'll make, what will be the installment, and what a good idea it was. The second day, it came down that rickshaws cannot just be bought, you have to buy a permit. So rickshaws were reasonable, but permits government had restricted. So you had to only buy permits as a reseller, so in black. So the cost of the permit was double the cost of the rickshaw. So our enthusiasm slightly went down. Okay, that permit cost perhaps may not be funded by the bank. Okay, so still we had those savings to perhaps buy a permit, but gradually the enthusiasm came down. Third day, we came to know the drivers whom you employ are usually difficult chaps. They go and drive anyhow. They bang the cars. There's a lot of repair work which comes up, and all this cost you have to pay out of your 100 or 150 rupees profit. Karke. So profit also started dwindling. So by third day, the enthusiasm came down even further. By fourth day, we came to know the repair cost, and we know it's a loss-making business. Fifth day, we closed the business. So likewise, on a entrepreneurship level, we did many businesses for 5 days, and ultimately ended them. Then came the change in my life. I finished my, the education qualification also for the aspirations has to be there. My parents were reasonably educated for that time. Both were 11th SSC, and grandfather was 4th standard. Okay, because in villages at that time, only primary school was there. So he could study till 4th standard, but he was a man with intelligence. So though he was educated only till 4th standard, could speak multiple languages, could carry on all his activities in a very accomplished manner, had a lot of financial sense, everything. And for those times, we were reasonably okay education-wise and aspired to be in line with education. But father always felt that apart from education, there should be some fine art which you should be learning. So he always wanted me to pick up some kind of a musical instrument and perhaps learn it in a better way. So he was insistent on me learning tabla, and soon he realized I am the Bacha of tabla. Only the wrong Bacha, I was the Aurangzeb of tabla. Oh, okay, so they put in a lot of effort. We were a very tightly knit, very warm family, lived everything together. Today what serials try and show you, we lived that life. We had great family, great parents who gave us their learning in a different sort of way, not very aspirational. As I told you, if electricity goes up, use the cooking gas. So that was our ambition. Okay, so after I finished my SSC, to have some pocket money of my own so that I don't have to really answer parents and I can be on my own, I started teaching in classes, okay, and started earning a bit of money. At that time, they used to pay you around 20 rupees per hour for teaching. And vacations used to be teaching students and paper checking. So paper checking used to be based on the number of marks of the paper, 20 marks or 50 marks. You used to get 25 paise or 40 paise for the paper checking. But it was good supplementary income at that time. But when I started seeing this, I realized this is not something very difficult to do. So anybody can teach. So I started thinking, why not take an initiative on my own and start doing this. So by the time this thought came, I had cleared my HSC. I had done well. Academically, everything was always very easily achievable. So till 10th standard, I wanted to be an engineer. But in 11th and 12th, I started thinking, no, becoming a doctor is better. Dad told me, keep both the options open. Study for your maths also, study for your biology also. And as luck would have it, I cleared my IIT JEE entrance also. I was 384th All India, so would have walked into Bombay IIT. Okay. I cleared my Roorkee, Jipmer, you name it, I was clearing it, doing well. My PCM marks were more than my PCB marks, but by that time, I had made up my mind that I want to become a doctor, because I realized that for everybody else to give back anything to the society, they have to take a special effort. But as a doctor, it comes in your routine line of work. So I thought, what better opportunity? You can work also as well as give it back to the society at the same time. So I was hell-bent on becoming a doctor at that time. And then this idea of starting a educational institute started. So I started during my first MBBS, my first business, that is Elite Tutorials, okay, which was teaching the 10th, 11th and 12th standard students. It was basically a correspondence course where we used to give them test papers and a question bank from which they could read and then answer those tests in a chapter-wise manner, and then we would check it and give it back. Now, at that time, as Sanjay said, no marketing budgets, no PRs understood, college-going student trying to manage MBBS and trying to start a business of his own was working. So I had a group of friends, that inner circle, okay, from 11, 12 days karke. So all of them decided to help me to go and market. So we got some data, collected data from few friends who were teaching in classes and used to visit those students, telling them that we have started this uh, test series and why don't you join in? So the standard question was, wherever we are going for classes, there are already enough tests. Schools are conducting enough tests. Why join for more tests? So we used to tell them, yes, with all due respect, you're going everywhere and they're teaching you. But if you'll see the profile of all the teachers, they have not become teachers out of choice. They have perhaps become teachers not by any failures or anything, but perhaps as a second choice, where they have not gone into any other professional courses. So our equivalents would be perhaps, would you like to learn cricket from Sachin Tendulkar or from somebody who has never hit a century? So they were confused. How do you equate that? So we have been toppers, we've been in the merit list, we have cleared all exams which are competitive and come out with flying colors. Here are mark sheets to prove what we are saying. Versus that, check with all your teachers their academic excellence. And then you make a choice, okay, whom do you want to learn from? When we tell you how to get 90%, we have got 90%. So we know the toil which is required to achieve that 90%. And then the admission was clicked. Okay, so that's how I earned my first 20,000 rupees in the first year, enrolling students for elite tutorials. 500 rupees was the fee. So we got around 40 students and went on to 20,000 rupees. So every year the number of students were gradually increasing. The studies for MBBS were also increasing. So, but I found it as a nice, comfortable thing to try and do these dual jobs together. My father was my first employee because somebody had to type the question bank and the papers. So the typing skills of father came into play. Then eventually we grew big enough where I could employ my first employee at the age of around 18 and a half. So that was Satish, whom we employed, who was my man Friday. He would do everything. Dad saw to it he learned typing also. Okay, so he couldn't teach his son. He had a more brilliant employee who could type now. Okay, so he was much more eased off. We bought a typewriter and majority of the stuff was being typed at home. Whenever a student came, we used to sit and chat with them. Satish used to run down, quickly Xerox the papers, pack them up in the envelope and come up because we didn't have budgets to pre-print it. Okay, so every time the student who's coming for admission would pay us the money. From that money, we would run down, Xerox it, and get it back. So with this experience, gradually as we were growing, we started one of the first BPOs perhaps in our country, where we started doing back office works for established educational institutes. So one of the established educational institutes at that time was Mahesh Tutorials. So they had 4 branches, okay, at that time 3,000 students. So I met Mahesh Shetty and I spoke with him about what we were doing. Same sales line, Sachin Tendulkar teaching cricket, sold it to him. He had an initial pilot project where he said, okay, we'll continue our tests and you do the test for our toppers and let us see their feedback. The toppers gave us a big thumbs up. Okay, these guys are doing something more differently than what you teachers are doing. And we clicked with the back office work. 3,000 students, all the back office to be done by us. Challenge because our workforce had to suddenly increase to 300 teachers. We decided to enroll board examiners at that time because that was one of our USP which we spoke about. Your papers, especially the prelims, will be moderated by the moderators of the board, the way the board exams are actually conducted. So we had to fetch for moderators, enroll them up. Okay, so budgets were going up, the staff was going up, we needed an office, were able to buy an office. So achieved the first 50 lakh turnover when I was in final MBBS. Okay, and yeah. Okay. So bought my first second-hand Maruti 1000. Okay, I could buy a Maruti 800 new one, but obviously I thought I'm made for better things. So let's buy a Maruti 1000. At that time, Maruti 1000, the original cost was around 6.5 lakh rupees. It was relatively a newly introduced car, so even the second-hand car was not too old. You could get it perhaps 2 or 3 years older. So that was 5 lakh rupees, and Maruti 800 was 2,25,000 rupees at that time. So I had that 5 lakh rupees to buy Maruti 1000. So residency started. I could drive in my red Maruti 1000 to the college campus where as a proud student, where my teachers were driving Fiats and I was in my Maruti 1000. So that gave a good kick, and that gave me confidence of gradually trying to grow. So after this, obviously I did well during my MBBS as well as MD. I topped in my MD, got the university gold medal, everything. And the academic journey was a breeze through. You had to tell an exam and okay, it's done. I remember during junior college days, in the SSC, I started learning German in Max Muller. Now, one of my friends asked me, why are you learning German? So I said, in 11th and 12th, there's either French or German as option. So quite a few students in convent schools have French during their 8th, 9th, 10th grade. So they would be way ahead in French. So perhaps I may not be on an equal platform to compete with them for 12th. So that's why I've taken up German. They told me, but do you realize there's only one college in Mumbai which teaches German as your third language? That's Ruparel. And Ruparel usually closes at around 88 or 89%. So if you don't make it in that college, what use will be German? So I said, why wouldn't I make it over there? Why the hell am I studying so much? I have already presumed I would be in Ruparel karke. I haven't thought of anything else. So at that time, during admission times also, you used to collect forms of 3-4 colleges and fill up those forms. My dad was, as usual, charged up, help my son, which all college, Bhavans, Parla, Ruparel, Ruya. So I said, Dad, why are you wasting time and money? Okay, let's fill up Ruparel. If we don't get Ruparel, then we'll see. So he told me, no, later on you cannot fill up the form. No, but wait for the results. I'm quite confident I've done well, and we would get into Ruparel. So I only filled up Ruparel form, I only learned German, and I only went to Ruparel. Okay, so from this journey, after MD, Elite continued. And when parents used to come for admissions, they used to ask, we heard some doctor is heading this institute. Okay, so who's that doctor? So I would sheepishly say, that's me. Okay, so the next question used to be, you're a doctor, practice nahi chalti hai. ये सब काम क्यों कर रहे हो? You are stereotyped. Once you are educated, you are stereotyped. Okay. You have honed one skill, you can't deviate anywhere else. So with those questions coming very frequently, I started getting a little disturbed. Okay. After being so well educated, why do I have to always keep on explaining? Okay, this is something which I started much before I became a doctor. And I'm fairly good in what I'm doing. By that time, those employee strength had gotten up to 400 and all during the initial doctor days. So, but eventually I thought, okay, I'll have to make a choice because somewhere mentally I'm not comfortable. Coming from a 14,000 rupees per month family, my ambitions were not very high. Okay, so I thought, why do something which I'm not really comfortable with? So let me just focus on medicine and let me become a good doctor. So I handed over Elite tutorials to my manager who used to be there with me all the time and who had learned everything what I had to teach him. And I told him, this is a gift for all your years of hard work. Okay, he finished the gift in 3 years. Elite closed in 3 years. Okay, so these things happened. By that time, I started practice. Now, during those times, doctors during their first visit used to charge 200 rupees. And a follow-up visit used to be 100 rupees. Okay. Now, I had made 50 lakhs. Okay, as my annual turnover. And then to charge somebody 200 rupees. So initial practice started off on a complimentary basis. Then a few friends started telling me, if you do this way, nobody will value you. Well, I'm made for higher things. Why 200 rupees ke liye क्या पैसा लेने का है करके. But eventually got convinced that if I have to really establish myself as a professional, I'll have to follow the rules of the profession. So started practicing that way. Then joined a hospital as a junior consultant in Andheri East Holy Spirit. There used to be huge OPDs over there. And I was just perhaps a year out of college. And again, going through that number of patients without really doing complete justice to them. Because when you have large number of patients, you can't really concentrate and do justice to them. So I went and asked the administrator, I'm ready to do all this, but eventually do I see any growth after doing all this work? Karke. So he said, no, that we cannot guarantee. You're too young, so time will only tell. But if you are continuing this job, hoping ke you will get promoted in some way, at the moment your seniors are not planning to vacate the seats, nor are we planning to appoint any new consultants. So it's a call which you will have to take. So I took my call, I left from there. Okay. So at that time, as a junior doctor, I was called to a Jogeshwari nursing home to see a patient with asthma. So over there, I met Dr. Patel. Okay. It was his nursing home. And we got chatting. And Dr. Patel told me, you seem to be quite dynamic. I have a nursing home opposite Shopper Stop at Andheri also. Why don't you come and see a patient over there? I said, okay, what better thing to do? So went to Shopper Stop, saw the patient. Then we again started chatting. Told me, you're very dynamic. Let's do one thing. Let us jointly run this hospital. So I thought he's pulling my leg. I was 28-year-old, 28 and a half year old at that time. Okay, so I told him, but I don't really have those kind of resources to partner with you. So he told me, no, you don't have to put up upfront money as far as the nursing home is concerned. My nursing home is there. You put in effort and you put in equipment. Your specialty is critical care. So you put in the equipment required for critical care and I'll put up the nursing home. So I still thought he's pulling my leg, but as long as he's not asking for money, what have I got to lose? He has to renovate first, then I have to put in the equipment. So I agreed with him. So he told whatever is there, we'll do 60-40. You get 40% for your effort and I get 60% for my infrastructure. So we started off with that agreement. He took a year to renovate the place, aram se. So I thought he's just still continued 1 year, who's renovating so much. So it doesn't really mean anything serious. And of all people, out of all so many established doctors, why would he select me? Later on, I came to know he had given this offer to everybody. I was the only naive guy to fall for it. And so it started. And it was initially known as Green Cross Nursing Home. It did not have a great reputation at that time. So I told him, no, I'm more focused on critical care. So let's call it Criticare. So he said, okay, you can call it Criticare. So October 1999, the Dasara of October 1999, we started Criticare Hospital in a 1,200 square feet nursing home. Around 12 beds were there. And above there was a polyclinic of around 400 square feet where 3 consulting rooms were there. Right from day one, somehow I was blessed with good intelligence and good patient management. So patients started getting well. And within no time, the nursing home was running full. So Dr. Patel told me, see, I told you in the beginning only, I can spot talent immediately. So then Dr. Patel said, now what used to happen in that nursing home, we had one consulting room between me and Dr. Patel. And remaining 2 consulting rooms were rented out to other consultants. So whenever Dr. Patel used to come in, I had to vacate the cabin because he was the boss. So I could not be there with my patients. Gradually, work was increasing. The number of people coming for my advice was increasing. So whenever Dr. Patel walked out, it wasn't always possible that I had finished my work. But I had to leave till he finished his work. I had to somewhere try and accommodate myself and finish with my consultations. Dr. Patel realized that somehow this is not working out. So he told me, why don't we meet at my CA's office and we'll work out some different arrangement. So I asked him, what different arrangement? So we'll change to a rental model. So I thought, okay, rental model. So I'd done my calculations, 1,200 square feet, 1999, 40-50 rupees square feet. I'll start off with 50,000 rupees rent, at the most settle for 60,000. 50 rupees was a good rent at that time. We sat with Yogesh Bhai. Dr. Patel and his wife were there. We started off with a rent of 1.5 lakh rupees, which was beyond my thinking. 1.5 lakh rupees at that time was 125 rupees per square feet, which is achieved perhaps a few years ago. Okay, so this was 2 decades ago, promising all that, and I had spent a substantial part of what I had earned in Elite in buying equipment for the hospital. So I did not have too much money remaining with me. So Dr. Patel said, no, 1.5 lakh rupees, you're doing well, you'll be able to pay, don't worry. So I thought, what is my bank balance? 3 lakh rupees. Okay, so now we're already into third month of operation. So going back and telling people that I'm shutting down because I did not understand the logistics properly would be foolish. So I have 2 months money, let me at least try and work for those 2 months and then let God decide. So I told him, okay, let me give it a try for 2 months. Then Dr. Patel said, yeah, but apart from that, you'll have to pay 6 months rent as deposit. Then Dr. Patel, I'll show you my passbook. I have 3 lakh rupees with which I hope to pay you the rent, 2 months rent. So you'll have to wait for a deposit for some time. So he told me, okay, that's fine. I'll give you 6 months to pay your deposit. Started working hard from that time. Never had to touch that 3 lakh rupees, which I had kept aside for those rents. Hospital started doing well. Okay, when you're on your own, I think perhaps the sense of responsibility and enthusiasm is even more higher. To speak crudely, when your ass is on fire, okay, then the best comes out of you. So I had put my ass on fire voluntarily. Okay, so started working towards it. In 4 months, I gave him the deposit amount also. And Criticare started becoming a successful venture. But Criticare was in a society. So we were always at war with the society. The society likes doctors. At the same time, they hate doctors. So a doctor opposite is fine. A doctor in your building is not somebody welcome. So every time society used to come up with some excuses to try and harass you. So I remember the secretary always had that habit of walking into the nursing home and, किधर है नामजोशी? बंद कर डालेगा. Okay. क्या न्यूसेंस करते बैठे हो? So then I would go and tell him, अशोक भाई, फुल नर्सिंग होम में इतना तो बेइज्जत मत करो, किधर है नामजोशी? तो सब लीगली है, डॉक्टर पटेल को नर्सिंग होम करके अप्रूव्ड है, उसके बाद चला रहे, आप रोज आके क्या किधर है नामजोशी करते हो? बोला नहीं, क्या है, डॉक्टर पटेल इज माई गुड फ्रेंड, बट द सोसाइटी पीपल फील कि परहैप्स आई एम बीइंग पार्शियल टू यू. तो आई हैव टू शो दैट इन फ्रंट ऑफ द सोसाइटी मेंबर्स. बोला पर इतना भी मत बताओ, मुझे ही गाड़ दो. एंड देन ही यूज्ड टू कम टू मी फॉर रेगुलर चेकअप्स, फॉर मेडिकल एडवाइस, एवरीथिंग, बट बाकी के टाइम किधर है नामजोशी? Okay. So I realized that with 1200 square feet, this was not going to be my dream project. So I had to start looking around somewhere else. So started looking around elsewhere. Ultimately landed up with the Juhu plot. Now Juhu plot was good, but at that time was for 5 crore rupees. To give you a perspective, in 2000, when I decided to strike in 2001, so around 1.5 years after starting the nursing home, I decided to shift to a better premises. So at that time, average 2-bedroom hall kitchen flat in Juhu scheme used to be around 24-25 lakhs. Okay, and 5 crores was something substantial. So though I was doing well, I was nowhere close to crores. Okay, I was in lakhs. So started bank hunting, somebody to fund me into buying this place. Banks used to ask for collateral. So what collateral did you have? My father's apartment, okay, which was at that time worth perhaps 8 lakhs or 9 lakh rupees. So with the 8 lakh, 9 lakh collateral, the banks were not very comfortable giving a 5 crore loan. Okay, so tried to understand how finances work in our country. So somebody told me you have to go through a politician. So if you go through a politician, they will immediately sanction your loan. So I spoke with many friends if anybody knows a politician. So one friend came up with somebody whom he knew. So we came to know that he was a politician 25 years ago, but still for me he was a politician. Okay, so he took me to a bank. He directly took me to the chairman of the bank, okay, and presented. Though looks young, very hardworking, very entrepreneur. I started giving my own presentation, CV, elite किया, ये किया, वो किया, ऐसा किया, करके सब अच्छा लगा बहुत है, करके okay, you submit your application, we'll see what can be done. Waited for a month, nothing happened. So again, I was following up with them. Then they asked me, do you know that politician really very well? Is he related to you or anything? Well, no. Everybody told me that since no bank was ready to listen to me, to come through a politician, and perhaps knowing people would help you to secure a loan. So he told me, never do that mistake unless you really know him, because we don't view politicians very kindly, and people who come with their references are not viewed as low risk candidates, they are viewed as high risk candidates. So you should never come with politicians. So I said, now you know the truth, I don't know him too well, so I'm not a politician referred here, I'm a professional, so please do something. So then they told us a mechanism by which I became a director in and a small shareholder in the company which I was going to buy. Okay, so that much money I was able to pay to the owner of that plot. And he also trusted me. So now the company was borrowing. The company could collateral the plot for the loan, and then the loan worked out. Okay, and we started with a 40-bedded critical care hospital at Juhu. Initially, the naiveness was always there. Okay, I was practicing somewhere at SV Road, and then coming to Juhu, I felt that perhaps that change of geography will not fetch me more work. Doctor's practice is very geographically based. So if you are very comfortable with a doctor in Juhu, you are not very comfortable going to a doctor in Santa Cruz. So if from Juhu you are relocating somewhere, we would have our anxieties. Okay, perhaps we would lose out on work. So that was my anxiety while shifting from SV Road to Juhu. But obviously, never had to look back. So during those times when I was asking for that 5 crore loan, I used to do learning mathematics, financial mathematics, trying to understand EBITDA, PAT, with 2 years of working experience. I used to think with 40% occupancy also I'll lose money. With 50% also I may not be able to break even. Expecting more than 50% occupancy is going to be a challenge. So whether I'm doing the right thing. So the woman in my life was my support. So that was my mom. So dad was also very encouraging, though both of them coming from simple background, not having seen crores ever or thought about crores ever. Okay, but still I sat with mom and discussed with her, okay, I'm going for a 5 crore loan. Everything looks good. Whatever small nursing home I'm running seems to be doing fairly well, and we are always running out of beds. So it looks like a natural expansion, but the money is something beyond us. So if I fail, it would perhaps make us lose everything that we have. Okay, so mom said, see, she was 11th standard, 4,500 rupees salary. She told me, you're putting into real estate. Usually in Mumbai, you can't go wrong with real estate. So even if you don't do well and you take a year to realize that and go bankrupt, your real estate would have appreciated reasonably, whereby at least you would be able to pay up the banks, and we would be back to square A. And we are in square A. And we are not having any kind of misgivings about that square A. We have lived 30 years in square A, and square A is something which we are very comfortable with, so don't worry about coming to square A. The other woman in my life at that time was my sister. My sister used to work for LIC. She asked me, why do you want to be so greedy? Why do we need so much money? We were happy in 14,500 rupees. Why do you want to borrow so much money and try and do business? What is the end result? You want more money, you want to make more money. So I told her, perhaps that's one way of looking at it. But what had struck me is I was successful in a smaller venture. So I thought I should elevate it to something better. That seemed to be the driving force to me. Yeah, money would also obviously come, so much borrowing, everything is there. Banks need to be paid back. But at the moment, the idea was to improve facilities for my patients and be able to pay back whatever I'm borrowing. I, at the moment, hadn't thought of making more money beyond that. If I'm able to achieve even that much, that would be good enough. But I felt, okay, as an educated man, if I don't show that guts in believing in myself, if I don't believe in myself, there's nobody else who's really going to believe in me. So whatever the risk, I feel it's not only for money, it goes something beyond money. It's perhaps, as a middle class boy, the thirst to prove yourself, to carve a niche for yourself. In a disjointed manner, going into flashback, I used to always travel to college also in a second class, whereas all the students used to travel first class. We used to get student concession, so 50% railway pass, and the difference between a second class and first class wasn't very big. My parents weren't exactly poor, so I could easily afford a first class, but always felt my father travels second class, my mother travels second class. I haven't done still anything to deserve better facilities than them. So during those days also, I used to be the only one going into second class, and everybody else used to be in the first class. So at that age also, rather than looking rich and happening for the women around me, I still played humble and walked into a second class in front of all the girls in the college. Okay, that was a different experience. So again, coming back over here, so bank gave the loan, hospital started doing well. Within no time, these 40 beds also started falling short, and realized that this is not going to be enough. We need more space. So the plot in front was something which I started targeting. Okay, now since we are successful in this geography, let's not change geography. So started negotiating the plot in front. So there was another friend whom I had met in the gym who decided to help me. Okay, and he was a developer. So he knew the tricks of the trade. So he told me, let me help you to forge a deal in the plot in front of you. So he started negotiating everything. Okay. I told him, only the first floor, you don't negotiate. The first floor family is my patient. So they have always been encouraging me to buy off their apartment. So with them, I'll deal directly. Rest all you deal. So one day he called me up saying the deal is done. So we are signing the agreement tomorrow. So I told him, but you haven't even asked any money from me. Okay, and I don't even know how much have you finally agreed for. So how do we sign the agreement tomorrow? Well, no. I and my partner, we will be signing the agreement. We'll take it up. So whenever you have money, you can buy it off from us. So because of that dosti, the 4 crore plot I bought for 6 crores. Okay, so I paid for that dosti. Okay. The first floor family, I started negotiating. The initial price with which they had come to me. Why I'm telling you all these are for a middle class entrepreneur. These are the challenges. You don't have to have big challenges. All these small things become challenges when you have no capital in your pocket, nobody to really guide you or explain to you. The family quite comfortable in their comfort zone. Okay, not really worried about whether you should be an entrepreneur or not. Entrepreneur is a word not much known to Maharashtrians. We are called as Alpasantusht. People have built businesses on Maharashtrians. Okay, it's nice to have a Ghati in the office, most loyal. Okay, he will not steal money. He'll be honest. He'll work hard. So from that to change roles was a challenge. So I started negotiating with the first floor guy. He said, yeah, by that time he had got the hint of it that somebody is buying the building. So he told me, yeah, I will definitely sell to you only. So from 40 lakhs, he told me, my son also wants a separate apartment. Karke. So from 40 lakhs, we negotiated to 70 lakhs. So now he said, no, but my wife says she also wants to be independent. So flat for the wife. So we renegotiated to 1 crore. Now, he came up with various excuses. So the 40 lakhs deal, ultimately we closed for 1 crore 75 lakhs. Okay. So the final plot of that, the cost of that plot came to 8 crores. That road usually at that time had plots of those size for 4 crores. So I was almost paying exactly the double. Okay, and I was thinking, why the hell am I doing that? Instead of that, I can just go and buy 2 plots for that much money. But plots are easier said than available. So you did not have it. Tried hunting around for 2 plots which I could pay for 8 crores and buy them, but there were no plots available. And again, that geography in mind, already a successful venture, so just expanding it. So ultimately bought it for 8 crores with friends, with known patients, with all their good offices being used. So I bought that 4 crores for 8 crores and then started constructing. Then one day as the construction was going on, suddenly I got a call from the architect saying, there's a stop work notice for your hospital. I said, okay, why? What happened? Bola, no, this plot has been sold to somebody else. Bola, don't joke. Bola, this is not the type of joke which I'll be very comfortable with. He told me, no, doc, I'm not joking. There is another fellow over here with an agreement saying this plot has been sold to you. Now, went back, saw what is going on. So I realized the gym friend from whom I had bought the plot for 4 crore rupees hadn't paid around 20 lakh rupees to the original owner, citing various kinds of deficiencies in the agreement which had been executed. So that is why the father-in-law of that seller was a big shot advocate who devised a method of getting his money back. So he sold to one of the rogue developers based on a MOU, the plot to him in 21 lakh rupees. And that developer had connections in BMC and they issued a stop work notice. Okay, and I was sweating it out, already having paid to through the nose for the plot. I went to my friends, Wala, what is this? You haven't paid this. Wala, no, they have been giving us legal notices for 6 months, but we thought we'll sort it out. Wala, so sort it out now. It's matter of money. Wala, no, but your property has appreciated so much now. So why do you want us to pay? You only pay up. So ultimately, after a lot of haggling, out of that 21 lakh rupees, they forwarded 14 lakhs. I paid up the balance 7 lakhs, and the deal happened. Yeah, I'm just wrapping it up. Okay, so I've told it. So obviously the hospital kept on being successful. We were falling short of space. So tried to negotiate neighboring buildings. Everybody thought Criticare is successful. Hike up the prices to 5x, 6x, where it was not workable. So then went to Andheri East, bought a plot in 0.5x. Okay, Andheri East started becoming successful. Then started realizing that now perhaps we have learned scalability and all, and we can do something bigger. By then, private equity investors also started approaching us. Banks started approaching us for easy funding, partnering with them, and making the story bigger. After listening to their terms and conditions, I thought, okay, I'm giving up my ownership and becoming an employee without me realizing I've become an employee. So I thought, okay, it's better at this moment at least to do whatever I'm personally capable of doing. By that time, Masuma had joined hands, and since the time Masuma joined hands during the second building of Jew, we never had to look back. That Vidya Balan movie, What Magic Touch. So now I had a genuine partner in crime to look after. So I would like to change that. In front of every successful man, there is a very capable woman. She leads from the front. Okay. So when a husband says that, it perhaps sounds very condescending and perhaps a fear factor, घर पे जाके उसको ही face करना है करके. It's none of that. I mean it in all honesty. कि Masuma has been the visionary behind our growth story, has more than confidently handled all responsibilities. Okay. Today I continue being a practicing doctor, whereas she is our boss. She looks after everything. She knows accounts. She knows all the interiors. She knows staffing. She takes care of everything. So I have a very peaceful life. I go and work for my OPD timings. I take my indoor rounds and come back and watch Netflix. Okay. So with this, we zeroed in all the Malad property, started invested in the Malad hospital. In the meantime, we got a good opportunity at Kurla, where a 2 lakh square feet established hospital was being sold. So in the middle of the Malad deal, God blessed us with a 2 lakh square feet, 250 bed hospital, expandable to 400 beds. So was able to buy it cash down. All properties have been bought. Okay, so none of them are on the rental model, and also all of them have been capital intensive. So that journey from gas and electricity to buying 2 lakh square feet at your whims and fancies, okay, was a big transformation whenever I look back. That perhaps is the message. Like initially also during in the doctor community, they felt that there must be somebody behind it. At that time, at a young age, I started treating Baya Sahib Thackeray. I was treating film producers, film directors. So I was being seen in their company very frequently. So everybody thought that perhaps it's their money and I'm just the front man. And the first plot was purchased from a developer called Lakdawala, Yusuf Lakdawala, whom we lost recently. So at the end of the construction, he put a placard over there, a Lakdawala project. And coincidentally, at that time, there was a Ijaz Lakdawala, a dreaded smuggler. Okay, so majority of my doctor colleagues decided that all Lakdawalas are smugglers. So whether it is Ijaz or Yusuf, all are smugglers. So this is basically a underworld ka hospital. Okay. So I initially from my seniors had resistance thinking that I'm in some way dabbling around my hands with the underworld, which was a surprise because nobody could believe somebody coming from middle class with no background, no capital could actually buy these kind of ventures and make them successful. So everybody thought there must be some secret behind him. Some skeletons will ultimately fall out from the cupboard. When no skeletons were falling out, they created their skeletons. Okay, so they looked at everything wherever they could make skeletons, they made those skeletons. And today we are where we are. So with 4 hospitals, with around 3.5 lakh square feet of retail space, 1,200 plus employees, the doctor community, they are there as friends, as co-consultants. They have been the team with whom we have worked and they have brought us up. So with that, the Criticare Asia story has been growing. And with all your blessings and support, we hope to do it better. The entire talk may have come from my point of view, but like a movie, it's my perspective of my life. Thank you, everyone.
I know we are overshooting time, but please, you can get a refill, and I will invite Mr. Khanna to come onto the dais, right? Come, sir, please. People are taking a little break, I think.
So should I also?
Of course.
I'm just joking. Yeah, engineers understand the value of time. He's an engineer. He's an engineer.
He truly is the sweetest one.
No, I will not 20, 15 or lesser.
Should I get you a drink?
No, I was just wondering, should I start or should I wait for the people to come in?
Just wait for 2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Maybe if people are getting a drink, they'll come back in,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, but they are having photographs outside. Yeah, please. I was telling you, I'll